What is going on, everyone? Welcome to 24/7 Football. And today it's a pleasure again to have Jonathan Greenwood from Newcastle Fans TV on 24/7 Football with us, because in the last few days, the rumoured takeover of Newcastle United didn't go through. The prospective owners pulled out, and they still have Mike Ashley at the helm. So we're going to talk to Jonathan about what it means to the fans, how they were all feeling, what it means for the future as well. So Jonathan, thank you for coming on first of all, and just explain how you felt when you saw the news that they pulled out, because it was a bit unexpected for everyone, wasn't it?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, George. I was actually doing a video with Lee and Sam, who also work with Newcastle Fans TV. We were just doing a general end of season video. We were literally just talking about, I don't even know who it was. It might have been about Nabil Bentaleb's performance, which is again another sour note on the season. And Sam just went and said, Takeover's off. They've just released a statement. So initially shocked, I suppose, because obviously it's from the buyer side, not the actual Premier League rejecting it. I think, long story short, the buyers have just had enough. The patience has been tested, and they've pulled out at such a late stage. But there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Rather, why it took 17 weeks for the Premier League to decide about this potential takeover. Yes, I know we're in difficult times, but 17 weeks is far too long to either decide yes or no. And I think a lot of Newcastle fans are feeling hurt, because this was the furthest it's ever come to in terms of a deposit being put down, contracts being exchanged. We were literally at a case of the Premier League gave it a big tick. It was just a transfer of funds, and that deal was done. That's how close it was for Newcastle.
How did it feel then? Like you say, closest it's come. It almost seems like we're playing with the emotions of Newcastle fans, because you got so close again to getting rid of Mike Ashley, and it's just been ripped away from him. Why do you think there was so much opposition from English football in general, first of all, and the media? Because there's plenty of other takeovers. You know, our club, Man City, for one, and there wasn't as much grief as Newcastle got.
I think the problem is now, when you look at it, Manchester City, Chelsea in particular have been bought, and you look how different the Premier League has been since them two clubs have come in. You know, Manchester City and Chelsea, if you spoke to a person that was under the age of 18, they're probably the two most successful teams, along with Manchester United. So did the clubs in the top six want somebody else to join the party? I don't think they did. Look, at the end of the day, there was a lot of opposition. It wasn't just some Premier League clubs. It was obviously beIN Sports, who obviously pay a lot of money for Premier League rights. I think it's something like £500 million for 3 seasons, and they weren't too happy, because obviously with the Saudi link apparently stealing their rights to broadcast in Saudi Arabia, which is obviously an allegation. But there was just a lot of things that you would go, "Ooh, I'm not too sure about that." And I think the Premier League never made a decision. The Premier League need to put out an explanation to say, look, would we have accepted this bid or would we have not? I don't think the Premier League wanted to accept this. I really don't. I think the Premier League were just waiting for something like this to happen, because it means that they didn't have to make the final decision. The buyers made their decision and said, look, we can't wait any longer because of the climate we're actually in. Again, you can't really blame Mike Ashley on this, because Mike Ashley's gone, I want to get rid of the football club, I want to sell it. Of course, he can point the finger at Mike Ashley for other things, and quite rightly so, but he was basically waiting for his money to come in. He had done everything. He exchanged contracts, he agreed a fee, agreed everything. So that's the most disappointing thing.
The rumours speculating at the moment were that there were 2 Premier League clubs that opposed this deal, in Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool. Well, I know you say the top 6 wouldn't have wanted you to join the party, and you can sort of see that from their respect. But for me, I feel like football should be a fair, open game where anyone can get a slice of the pie. Did it disappoint you that 2 big clubs like that had really tried to stop you from being taken over?
If that's the case, then obviously you will be slightly disappointed. But they're just thinking of themselves. That's the brutal answer. Liverpool have just won the league for the first time in 30 years. They don't want to wait 30 years for the next title. So they want to make sure that they keep it going. Tottenham's a strange one because they've just spent a lot of money on a stadium and they probably didn't expect a pandemic to happen. So they're probably thinking, well, how much can we actually spend? And they're probably thinking, well, if Newcastle get their takeover, we'll be one position lower. Like they finished 6th this season, and you think they didn't have a good season at all when you think about it. I don't know. Spurs is a bit of a funny one. Liverpool I can kind of understand, but everybody's competitive, especially in the Premier League. It's the most competitive league in the world. People say it's the best league in the world. For me, it is disappointing. But if I was a Liverpool fan or a Tottenham fan, I'd be glad that they're trying to oppose something like this. If they think this is a threat, like Newcastle were potentially going to be one of the richest clubs in the world. So of course that's going to be a massive threat. The Champions League now, you look at the teams in the Champions League, like Leicester nearly got in the Champions League again, and a team like Manchester United didn't, not nearly. And you think, well, imagine the financial side of that, and especially with coronavirus put into that as well. So these big clubs will just think of themselves, and that's fine because that's what their fans will want. If that was me, I'd love them to think, right, they're putting the club first rather than probably other things first, which is probably in hindsight the right thing for them.
A major talking point from this takeover was how the media handled it, and the media, not in terms of how us or you handled it. We're talking about the big media who either were on the side of they clearly didn't. Some media outlets clearly didn't want this deal to go through. They raised the human rights protests and stuff like that, which is there to be raised, but they really went with it. And on the other side, there was journalists who, you can almost say, reported false news every week that it was going to be announced tomorrow. The deal had been signed, which it had been, but it was going to be announced. The Premier League had okayed it when they hadn't. So where did the Newcastle fans, and you in particular, stand with the media on both sides? Because you've got two different very sides there.
We made it very clear from us as a Newcastle Fans TV that we didn't know anything in terms of speaking to the horse's mouth. We didn't. We've said that from the very start. We basically got other information and we put it out there for debate. We let other fans talk about it. And that's pretty much what we want to do. In terms of national media and local media, this really frustrates me a little bit because it seemed that not many people at all had a clue what was going on. I'll probably say 5 people at most probably knew what was going on with that deal. And I'm even probably being generous with 5 people, to be honest with you, when you look at it in terms of journalists that knew what was going on. Unless you are literally Mike Ashley's right-hand man, or you are literally, you know who Richard Masters is, that was pretty much all you could go with, because they're probably the only 2 that really know what was going on. Richard Masters had so much time to think about this deal, and it looked by the end of it, he just didn't know who to annoy more. Now, the local journalists will be going, well, we can only say what we've been given. Like anything. Whatever contacts give you, you're going to put it out there. On the record, of course. Off the record, you'll know a little bit less. But for me, I'm just sick and tired of journalists just guessing. That's what they've been doing. They've just guessed. They've gone, right, let's say 24 to 36 hours. No, it's another week. No, it's another week. They didn't have a clue. They just did not have a clue. If you don't know anything, just don't put it out there. But a lot of people are doing it for financial gain. It's clickbait, isn't it? If they say, if a Newcastle fan or any football fan for that matter say your club is going to be sold by the richest people in the world, and it's got a respectable name out there, you're going to click it and you're going to read it, and that's what obviously makes them money. But they've just guessed, and they guessed wrong, or 95% of them guessed massively wrong, and it's not good enough. You're there to report the truth. You're not there to report guesswork, and that's where they've gone massively wrong.
Do you think Newcastle fans in that aspect are not an easy target, but because Newcastle fans wanted it so much, and I know when I put a video out with you guys, it does really well because Newcastle fans seem to be not just a loyal fan base, but they want to know what's happening and they're so eager for something to happen. Do you think that's why a lot of these news outlets do it? Because not that it's an easy pick, but Newcastle fans are so eager and so passionate.
George, the problem is when you're in this part of this part of the country, and I'm not just saying that because I'm honestly slightly biased, but Newcastle people, Newcastle United Football Club is their world almost. You know, you wake up, first thing you're going to do is there any news on the club today? You know, when you finish work, has there been any news? everything's gearing up to that game on the Saturday or the Sunday. So you want to find out everything about Newcastle. You literally walk into the city centre, it's there. The ground's there, you can see it, it's huge, you can't miss it. So people are going to go, right, what's going on with Newcastle? But are we an easy choice? You'd have to speak to journalists, wouldn't you? They would be the one to tell you that. I'd probably say, in a respect, I think we probably are, because again, we want to know everything, but we don't like making a mockery out of. And I think this deal has made a mockery out of some Newcastle fans, because a lot of journalists again were saying this was so close, and I think you can only get so close without it being true. And I think there was a quote that somebody said, "Rich people don't tell people about a deal being done; it gets done." You hear about the deal being done. You don't hear about, oh, it might be done, or we're getting closer and closer. You literally, like Manchester City, you wake up the next morning, bang, Man City have been taken over. Robinho's coming in the next day. That was the big storyline with Manchester City.
We didn't have a clue.
You know what I mean? That should have been with Newcastle. We should have literally heard something the night before. Oh, there's possible rumours, and then the next morning you go, bang, it's happened. But it's been played out in the media. The media have probably done the digging and found out and gone, well, we need to go with this because we think this is actually going to happen. And obviously, it hasn't worked out like that.
So the takeover's not going through. Where does this leave the Newcastle fan base first? Going into next season, has it just wiped the optimism away from you, or is there still something to look forward to? You had a decent season last season, and are you still excited for next season, or is it just wiped that optimism away?
It had a lot to play. It had a lot to play with, George. I don't think Newcastle fans were expecting the world to happen, as in certain players coming in, but I think they would have seen a steady improvement. I think, these prospective owners that wanted to take over, they had big plans. Did they have big plans for this summer transfer window? I don't think they did. I think they wanted to make a couple of marquee signings, but they didn't want to go and buy everybody out there. But I don't know, is the brutal honest with you, George. I think the fan base is very much split. For me personally, I can only say that I think it's going to be another difficult season. I think it's going to be a very, very difficult season. I think Steve Bruce, he's done the job that he was asked to do and keep the club in the Premier League, and he has done that. But I think it'll be even harder next season. Like, you look at the teams that are getting promoted, likes of Leeds and West Brom and potentially at Brentford or Fulham. Are those four clubs in a better position than Newcastle? I would say possibly Leeds are, possibly a Brentford or a Fulham are. West Brom, I don't know. They've got quite a lot of young players. So you'd have to say that Newcastle have got to look over the shoulder, and I think if you're offered 17th in this right now, I think Newcastle fans would probably go, well, yeah, we're probably going to have to take that because we don't know what's going on. The player recruitment side has to be improved dramatically, because we were very fortunate last year. Like, our top goal scorer in terms of striking options was Dwight Gale, and he missed 70% of the season, scored 4 Premier League goals. John Joe Shelby scored 6 goals for Newcastle, and he was in just for a little spell as well. If we don't get goals this season, Newcastle will not be as lucky as they were with every defender under the sun at Newcastle scoring a goal for them. So I hope, as a Newcastle fan, I really do hope that Newcastle can buy a couple of players, especially going in the forward areas, and potentially being okay. But there's no ambition at the football club, and that was the big thing with Mike Ashley leaving. If Mike Ashley leaves as an ambition, everyone will be excited again. Now, are we asking for finishing top 4? Probably not. No. What we're asking for, can we get into the top 10, and can we maybe challenge for the Europa League? Because Burnley, Sheffield United, Leicester being in and around there, like Leicester in the Europa League, Burnley and Sheffield United just missed out. Can we not compete with Burnley or Sheffield United? As a Newcastle fan, I think we should be competing with Burnley and Sheffield United. That's just my opinion. I don't know what other people might say, but I think it'll be a long season. But if Newcastle can get a good start, potentially be okay by Christmas, we're in maybe 14th, 15th, we're not maybe a few points away from the bottom 3, then potentially you might be a little bit more optimistic. But if we're safe this time next season and Steve Bruce is still there, you've got to say he has done a good job.
It's such a shame talking to you now from where we were at a few weeks ago when we spoke about the deal potentially going through. It's like dejection. But where do you think this leaves Mike Ashley then? Because he must be at a crossroads now because we're in a pandemic where we're in an economic crisis. Is he going to try and go for a quick sale, or is he going to try and have to invest in the squad and maybe be ambitious for once? Where do you think he's going to be at now with this deal falling through?
Well, what they said on Sky the other day was he's he's still 100% committed to selling the football club, and he wants to sell the football club to the Saudis now. Who knows? Who knows? Could the Saudis double bluff everybody? And the Premier League will say, look, we're going to accept this deal. And they come back and they finish the deal off. That would be a fantastic option. Unlikely, but a good option. I think what Mike Ashley will do, and I think it's probably the most sensible option, if he knows that he can't get this deal done with the Saudis, it's potentially hold on another year. And I think, and this is me speaking as if I was Mike Ashley, not as a Newcastle fan. For me, if it was me speaking, I want a deal getting done regardless. But I think he's probably better off waiting another year, seeing where Newcastle are in January. And if Newcastle are in a situation in January where you go, well, they should be okay. There's a 70% chance that Newcastle will probably still be a Premier League side for the next season after that, and then try and see if he can make a bit more money. That would make more financial sense. But if he's that desperate to sell because his other companies have taken a turn for the worse, what's the price? Is the price still £300 million? Is it lower? Who knows? But I think unless it's businesses, as in, you know, the ones that we all know of, like the Sports Direct company, then if they're making a massive loss, then he might have to go, do you know what, I might have to take a little bit less. But I don't know, businessmen are quite greedy at the best of times, so aren't they? So he'll probably want as much as he can get for Newcastle.
And just in terms of the fan base as well, obviously being Newcastle Fans TV, you do a lot of interaction with the fans as well. You said there's a little bit of a split in Newcastle fans at the moment. What is that split, and how have they taken the news as well?
I think there's some fans said, I told you so. Don't believe everything that's been said. And I think a few fans said, well, I believed it. I believed that this was going to happen. A lot of people have said, well, I'll believe it when they're holding up a Newcastle scarf inside St. James's Park and the deal's been confirmed. A lot of people are basically saying, well, it was never confirmed in the first place. It's typical Mike Ashley, you know, that sort of conversation. What we've stressed on our channel is don't fall out, because it doesn't get you anywhere. You know, we're not the only fan channel that covers Newcastle, and we've all got different opinions on it. But that's what makes football great. That's what makes us talking about Newcastle great, you know. And I think, especially in the current climate with everything that's going on, maybe a bit of solidarity and togetherness is probably the way forward for Newcastle, because it looks like we're not going to be able to watch the first couple of games of the Premier League season next year. I think in Scotland they've announced the 14th of September, which is after the first weekend of the Premier League season. But a lot can change in 7 or 8 weeks. And if 7 or 8 weeks ago we were still in lockdown, or we're just at the end of lockdown, weren't we? So who knows? Because there hasn't been any football, there probably will be a full house at St. James's in the first game back. But I think after that first game where people haven't beaten the game, I think the attendances will drop again, because there is no confidence that this team can do as well as they did last season, unless there's significant investment go in the forward areas. But who knows? Again, all I saw is that the fans just back each other, really. You know, it doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong. It's just, can this football club improve? Can this football club climb up the table? It might. Who knows? Football can be very different. You know, we were tipped to get relegated a few years ago. We ended up finishing 5th under Alan Pardew. No one ever expected that season. I'm not saying we're going to finish 5th this season, but if we're in a comfortable position next year, people will go, well, that's a bit of a surprise. So let's just see how it goes.
Well, Jonathan, I appreciate you coming on and giving us a little bit of clarity. And I hope for Newcastle fans' sake that something positive does come out in the next few weeks. But I appreciate you coming on, not only providing clarity on the situation, but also how the fans are feeling as well. So thank you for that. If you do want to check out Newcastle Fans TV, make sure you do. It's all in the link in the description. All their links will be down there. It's a fantastic channel. Check them out. Thank you to everyone who has watched. Subscribe to our channel, 24/7 Football. Check out our website, 247football.com. Like the video, and we'll see you all next time.